Hello and welcome to today's episode. I'm Jimmy and I am not an AI bot. So look, I've wasted probably 100 hours vibe coding the wrong way, and today I want to share 10 things that would have saved me about 100 hours of time. These aren't obvious tips that you'll find in every tutorial. These are the expensive lessons that only come from actually doing it wrong in the first place. So we're going to cover everything from prompting strategies to version control nightmares to just knowing when to give up and try something different. So if you're thinking about getting into vibe coding or you tried it and you've struggled, this is going to save you a lot of pain, hopefully. So let's go ahead and dive in. So number one. So, all right, the first thing, and this took me too long to figure out, is finding the sweet spot with your prompts. So I found that not being lazy in your prompting will get you way better results. So you need to capture the important details, but here's the thing. Don't be overly prescriptive either. Let the LLM have a little bit of autonomy to create. You'll find yourself in situations where you're producing things that you wouldn't have dreamed up yourself, which is really cool and which I think is kind of the power of these tools in some cases. So I see that as actually a good thing. So here's a little bit of like a pro tip that saved me tons of time personally. You can actually use a large language model like ChatGPT or Claude or anything like that to actually help you craft the prompts. So I'll go to Claude and ChatGPT and say something like, hey, I'm going to feed this to V0 or Lovable or whatever vibe coding tool you use or whatever. And I need you to format this in a prompt in such a way that the AI tool will understand it best. So it's like having like a prompt translator. And the results are like night and day. So I use that, and it, instead of like typing whatever comes to mind, I use that a lot of times to help get better results. So number two, the second thing is using screenshots. So this is huge for two different reasons. For visual interfaces, if you have a design inspiration somewhere, like let's say you love the Apple website or something like that, you can include screenshots, and a lot of these LLMs will actually be able to interpret it pretty well. So if you try to describe, hey, make it like the Apple website, that you may not get, any issues. You may not get, good results there. Be explicit in your prompts, and this is for design inspiration only. You got to be very careful because sometimes I found you use screenshots, they'll start to use the content, and you want to avoid any copyright issues or anything like that. But that's the first use case. The second use case is for debugging. So when something breaks, take a screenshot of that error or even the UI, circle it, highlight it, draw an arrow to it. The models are actually good enough now to interpret this visual information. And I can't tell you how many times I've personally tried to describe a layout in words when a simple screenshot would have solved it immediately. So number three, and this is for all the overthinkers and perfectionists out there, just start building stuff. So don't overthink this. Don't spend weeks preparing. Don't watch 50 tutorials before you write your first prompt. Think about the problem you have that needs to be solved and attempt to solve it with vibe coding. So your first project, it should embarrass you. It should really just be, throwaway work or something. But seriously, start with something simple. A personal tool. That's how I started. I just built some things that that would help me do my job better and things like that. A calculator, a basic tracker, anything. Just try to build something. Don't try to build a SaaS product on day one. That's not going to work. Anything that you can think of that would be useful to you, and just start practicing. And they're going to be learning experience. They're going to be throwaway, but that's not failure. That's education. So the fastest way to learn vibe coding is just to vibe code, period. So number four, community involvement. So I personally watch a ton of YouTube videos, and I follow, different creators that are vibe coders, and there's some really great ones out there. There's communities on Reddit like r/vibe coding is really good. There's some other vibe coding communities like School that are worth it. But here's why this matters. Like, these tools are going so fast, and the creators are releasing updates sometimes daily. I've had updates happen on some of the platforms in the middle of working on stuff, and then the interface changes a little bit. It's evolving really fast. But if you're serious about learning this, join some communities. You can keep up with the changes. This is like the only way. You got to read up on this stuff every single day because it's moving so fast. And then also follow the creators directly. All the companies, they share tips and tricks that aren't documented really anywhere else. And this community is where you'll learn that kind of stuff. So that's my tip number 4. Number five, this is a tough lesson I learned. I learned the hard way on this, and this is all about version control. It's absolutely essential. So some of these tools, they don't natively do version control very well. And here's the problem. Vibe coding encourages rapid iteration. So you're constantly tweaking, you're adjusting things, you're regenerating, you're doing all these things. And my tendency with vibe coding is just to keep on iterating and forking and changing and duplicating and so on and so forth. And I come back a week later and I have no idea. I've done so many iterations. I don't know where to start again. It's a little bit intimidating. So here's the strategy I use now. So I version every single time I fork, and I version right in the title of the project or the fork. And I number them like V1, V2, so on and so forth. I don't say it's a copy of a project. Just don't be lazy here. And also on the deployed versions, I will write deployed on there, so I know which version is the actual real version that I can always go back to if I need to. So just keep organized with this stuff. Number 6 is debugging. So this is different with AI generated code, I found, and I'm not a developer myself, but I'm familiar with debugging. And one strategy that saved me hours is instructing the LLM from the very beginning to create error logging that I can actually see. So either in the console or right in the UI itself, include this in your initial prompt. So you can say something like add visible error handling and logging to help with debugging or something like that. Like don't wait for errors to happen and then try to add debugging later. Build it from day one, build it from the beginning. When errors happen, you'll actually be able to see some of the errors get surfaced, and then you'll be able to debug a lot simpler. So the AI is really good at adding comprehensive logging and stuff like that if you just ask for it up front, but it rarely will do it on its own. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. It just depends. So that's that. Number 7, I call this the 3 attempt rule. So number 7 is all about saving yourself from insanity, basically. So if the AI can't get something right in 3 attempts, and I try to stick by this, you need to change your approach entirely. Just change it. So here's how I do it. The first attempt is kind of like the initial try. The second attempt, you clarify, you adjust, you try to be a little bit more specific. But by the third attempt, if it's not working, I actually tell the AI sometimes to just completely refactor this and do it in a way that has a high likelihood of success. So often the AI gets stuck in like some kind of bad pattern or loop, and it just goes on and on and on. It will, doing the same thing over and over again, basically. A complete refactoring of it kind of breaks that pattern, I found, and it makes the AI sort of think differently or look somewhere differently. And it's not just, hoping. It's actually, because hope's not a strategy. So you're not just hoping that it's going to work. You got to be, a little bit more specific. So number 8, and this relates to version control thing. I gotta be careful how I say this. Fork early and fork often. When your project gets too large, it's important to fork it, to duplicate it, so that way the AI doesn't lose context and break things. And if the AI starts contradicting itself and breaking existing features, your project is likely too big. So fork it, change it, duplicate it. And pro tip, if you can't explain what you're building in like 2 or 3 sentences, it's likely too complex from one vibe code prompt. So just break it down into smaller pieces. Number 9, and this is a big one, use third-party services for complex systems. So things like payment processing, authentication, email delivery, use things like Stripe, Clerk, SendGrid. Just don't try to recreate these with vibe coding. I know it's tempting to think, okay, I'll just build a simple authentication system or payment system. Just don't do it. If it involves money, passwords, or personal data, use a trusted third-party service. They're built for these types of things. If you think about it, they have massive teams and investments behind them to ensure they're secure. The time you save lets you focus on actual unique value proposition of whatever you're building. So this isn't about being lazy. It's just being strategic. These services exist because these problems are actually really hard to solve, and someone has solved them already. So don't try to recreate them, is my opinion. Let them handle the hard stuff. That's my advice. Number 10, and this is a mindset shift. And it was a mindset shift for me as well, which is think in components and not applications. So for me, successful vibe coding is about assembling pieces, not building this giant application. So build your app as like connected components. So think about like a user dashboard, that's one component. The admin panel, that's another component. API endpoints are another component. Even like the navigation can be like another component. So each one could be its own vibe coding session with its own focused prompt. But if you try to describe an entire application in one prompt, you're going to have challenges. So the AI will get confused. You're going to get frustrated. The output will be messy. Just break it down into smaller pieces and assemble those pieces, and you'll have a lot better luck. So look, those are my 10 tips for vibe coding. Let me recap the big 3 that I think will save the most pain for you. Number 1, version control. Just version control everything. Be very detailed with that. Number 2, use the 3 attempt rule before you waste hours on something that won't work. And number 3, always use third-party services for anything involving security or payments. So here's my challenge for you. Pick a problem you have right now, something simple, and just try to vibe code it using those 10 principles. Start now. And if you have any tips or tricks that you personally learned along the way, I'd love to hear about them in the comments. So please put them in there. I respond to most everything in the comments, so would love to hear from you. And if this has helped you avoid some expensive mistakes, please hit that like button. Subscribe for more strategic AI content. And also, if you want to continue learning about vibe coding, check out this next video that I have here. This is vibe coding, the next big thing or just a fad? This is where I answer top vibe coding questions. So thanks for joining me on the AI Strategy Lab, and we'll talk soon.